There is a man standing on a sidewalk in the rain, and he has approximately 4 seconds left to live. He does not know this yet. His name is Luca Moretti. He is 38 years old. He controls the eastern half of this city's underworld with a precision that would impress a Swiss watchmaker and a ruthlessness that would horrify one. He has spent 20 years building an empire out of fear and loyalty and the systematic elimination of anything soft inside himself. And he is standing outside a restaurant at 11:43 on a Wednesday night in October, alone, for 45 seconds, because his driver is pulling the car around, and 45 seconds felt like nothing when the night was quiet and the rain was light and the meeting had gone well. 45 seconds. In Luca Moretti's world, empires have fallen in less. A black sedan is rounding the corner. Inside it, 2 men are adjusting their grips on weapons that have already been aimed. The window is down. The barrels are emerging. The trajectory has been calculated. The target is isolated. The shot is clean. For seconds. But here is where the universe, or God, or whatever invisible hand occasionally reaches into the machinery of human events and jams a finger between the gears, introduces a variable that no one, not Luca, not the men in the sedan, not even the variable herself, could have predicted. A woman walks out of a pharmacy. Her name is Ada Santos. She is 29 years old. She is a night shift nurse at St. Julian's Hospital, and she has just finished a 12-hour shift during which she held the hand of a man who was dying of liver failure, changed the bandages on a teenager who had been stabbed outside a nightclub, and consoled a mother whose child had a fever of 104. She is carrying a white paper bag containing a prescription for her downstairs neighbor, Mrs. Keller, who has arthritis and cannot make the trip herself. She is tired in the way that nurses are tired, not just in the body but in the soul, the kind of tired that accumulates like sediment at the bottom of a river and changes the shape of the riverbed over time. She is thinking about nothing. That is important. She is not thinking about heroism or sacrifice or the philosophical implications of intervening in a stranger's fate. She is thinking about her bed, about the 8 flights of stairs between her and that bed, about whether she remembered to buy milk. She looks up. She sees the man. She sees the sedan. She sees the window coming down and the shapes emerging from inside it, the dark geometry of weapons being positioned, and her body performs a calculation so fast that her conscious mind does not participate in it. The calculation is not strategic. It is not tactical. It is the calculation of a woman who has spent 6 years watching people become the aftermath of violence, who has held their hands and cleaned their wounds and watched the light leave their eyes, and whose body has decided, in the space between one heartbeat and the next, that it will not watch it happen again. Not tonight. Not 3 feet away. Not while her body is right there and her body can do something. She runs toward him. Subscribe right now. I am telling you to subscribe because what this woman does in the next 4 seconds is going to change 2 lives permanently, and the way it changes them is something you will carry with you long after this story ends. Subscribe and do not leave. She hits him like a wave. Her arms lock around his torso. Her face presses into his neck, and her voice, shaking, terrified, absolutely certain, delivers 6 words directly into his skin. Hold me. They will not shoot. Luca Moretti has not been held by another human being since he was 11 years old. That is not an exaggeration. That is not poetic license. That is a fact. His mother left when he was 3. His grandmother, who raised him, died when he was 11. Since then, every physical interaction he has experienced has been transactional, violent, or professional. Handshakes that were power. Assessments. Touches that were threats. The occasional woman who shared his bed and left before morning because staying was not part of the arrangement. No one has held him. No one has put their arms around his body and pressed close and meant it. No one has touched him without wanting something. Until now. His arms close around her. Not because he decides to. Because his body, the body that has been untouched for 27 years, overrides every protocol and every instinct and every wall he has ever built, and does the thing it has been starving to do since he was a boy who lost the last person who held him. It holds back. The sedan slows. The men inside see 2 figures embracing in the rain. A couple. Lovers. The target was supposed to be alone. The shot is no longer clean. The sedan accelerates. It rounds the corner. It disappears. They stand there. In the rain. Holding each other. Her face in his neck. His arms around her back. Two strangers locked in an embrace that was born from violence and is now, in the silence that follows, becoming something else. Something neither of them has a name for yet. She is shaking. The adrenaline has arrived late, the way it always does, flooding her system after the danger has passed, punishing her body for the decision her instinct made without consulting it. Her teeth are chattering against his collarbone. Her fingers are digging into the fabric of his coat. She is terrified. She is alive. She is holding a man whose heartbeat she can feel through his chest, and it is fast, just like hers, two hearts racing in tandem, synchronized by the proximity of death and the miracle of having avoided it. She pulls back. She looks at his face, and what she sees is not a mafia boss, not a name whispered in dark rooms, not the architecture of power and violence. She sees a man, wet, pale, with eyes that are looking at her with an expression she has seen before, on the faces of patients who wake up after a surgery they were not expected to survive. The expression of a person encountering their own continued existence and not quite believing it. "Are you okay?" she asks. She is asking him if he is okay. She has just placed her body between his and two gun barrels. She is trembling so hard her voice vibrates. And she is asking him. Luca Moretti, the man who has made powerful men beg with nothing more than silence, cannot speak. His throat has closed around something that is not words and not tears, but something older than both. Something that lives in the place where language has not been invented yet, and the only communication possible is the pressure of one body against another. "I should go," she whispers. She tries to step back. His arms do not open, not because he chooses to keep them closed, because the part of him that has been starving for 27 years is not finished yet and will not release what it has been given. He forces his arms open. She steps back. She picks up the wet paper bag, the prescription for Mrs. Keller's arthritis. She looks at him one more time. "I am glad you are okay," she says. And she means it. She means it with every cell in her body, with the pure, uncomplicated sincerity of a woman who has spent her life caring for strangers and does not know how to stop. She walks away, into the rain, her blue uniform darkening, her footsteps uneven, gone. And Luca Moretti stands on the sidewalk where he should have died and touches the place on his neck where her face was. It is warm. In the cold rain, in October, on a night that should have ended with his blood on the pavement. The skin where she pressed her face is warm. Tommaso pulls the car around, opens the door. "Boss, we need to go." "Find her," Lucas says. "The woman. Her name is Ada. She is a nurse. Find her." Tommaso looks at him. 11 years. He has never heard those words in that voice. That voice is not command. It is not strategy. It is the voice of a man who has just discovered that he is capable of needing something and does not know what to do with the discovery. Drop a comment right now. Tell me, would you have run toward him or away? Be honest with yourself. And subscribe, because when Luca finds Ada, when he walks into her hospital and she sees him again and discovers who he truly is, the decision she makes is going to be the most important moment in this entire story. Stay with me. Tommaso found her in 9 hours. Her full name was Ada Marin Santos, 29, night shift nurse, St. Julian's Hospital, 1-bedroom apartment in Midwood, 4th floor, no elevator, no criminal record, no connections, no associations with anyone in Luca's world. She was exactly what she appeared to be, a woman who worked nights and cared for strangers and climbed 8 flights of stairs because that was what she could afford. She was nobody, and nobody had saved Luca Moretti's life. Luca sat with her file for an entire day. He turned it over in his mind the way he turned everything over, searching for the hidden structure, the concealed motive, the architecture beneath the surface. Because in his world, people do not throw themselves between a man and a bullet without a reason. People do not risk death for strangers. The equation does not balance. The cost is too high. The benefit is too low. No rational human being makes that trade. Unless the trade was not rational. Unless Ada Santos did not calculate at all. Unless she simply moved. That possibility sat inside Luca like a foreign object. His system could not process it. His machinery could not categorize it. A human being had looked at him, a stranger, a man she did not know, and had placed her body between his and death without thinking, without weighing, without any of the strategic architecture that governed every decision Luca had ever made. The machinery could not explain it. So the machinery shut down. And in the silence that followed, Luca heard her voice. Hold me. They will not shoot. Subscribe right now. Because Luca Moretti is about to walk into St. Julian's Hospital and sit in a plastic chair and watch a nurse work for 4 hours. And what happens between them in a parking lot at 4 in the morning is going to crack open a man who has not been cracked in 20 years. Subscribe. He went to St. Julian's on a Friday night. Alone. No Tommaso. No security. He went alone because bringing his world to her doorstep would have contaminated the only clean thing he had encountered in 2 decades. He found her at the nurse's station, writing on a chart, hair pulled back, uniform wrinkled, shadows under her eyes. 12 hours into a shift. The quiet, relentless labor of a woman who heals for a living. She looked up. She saw him. And here is what did not happen. Fear did not cross her face. This is important. This is the detail that matters more than any other detail in this story. Every person who knows what Luca Moretti is shows fear. It lives in the eyes, in the micro-expressions, in the involuntary backward shift of weight. His own associates show it. His own mother showed it. Fear is the atmosphere Luca lives inside. So constant he has forgotten it is there. Ada did not show fear. She showed recognition. Then concern. You, she said. The man from the sidewalk. Are you okay? I have been thinking about that night. She had been thinking about him. Not with dread. With concern. She had been carrying the memory like a nurse carries the memory of a patient, wanting to know if they made it. Wanting to know if they were okay. I am not hurt, he said. Because of you. He told her what he was. Not the details. The shape of it. The outline. He told her that the men on the sidewalk were there because of who he was, and that by saving him she had stepped into the orbit of something dangerous. She listened. She did not flinch. She did not step back. She stood behind the nurse's station and received the information the way she received every piece of difficult information in the emergency room, with clinical attention and unflinching presence. Then she asked a question that Luca Moretti had never been asked. Are you here to hurt me? No. Then why are you here? Because you. Help me. On a sidewalk. In the rain. And no one has held me since I was a child. And I do not know what to do with that. Something shifted in her eyes. Not softened. Deepened. The way a person's gaze changes when they stop looking at someone and start seeing them. Sit down, she said. He sat. In a plastic chair. For 4 hours. He watched her work. He watched her change bandages and check vitals and hold the hand of a frightened old man and talk softly to a child with a fever. He watched a woman move through chaos with a calm that mirrored his own, except her calm healed and his destroyed. At 4 in the morning, her shift ended. She came out in street clothes. She saw him still sitting in the plastic chair. You stayed, she said. You did not tell me to leave. She looked at him. And in that look was the beginning of everything. Not love yet. Love was weeks away. But the beginning. The seed. The decision, forming in real time, to not run from a man the entire city ran from. Walk me to my car, she said. In the parking lot, under fluorescent lights, she stopped at her door and said something that landed on Luca Moretti like a hand on his chest. I am not afraid of you. I held you on that sidewalk and I felt your heartbeat and it was fast. You were scared. You are human. And I am not afraid of humans. She drove away. And Luca stood in the parking lot and touched his neck where her face had been, and the warmth was still there. And he understood that the warmth was not physical. It was the heat of being reached for by someone who expected nothing in return. They saw each other 4 times in 11 days. Each time, the same ritual. The plastic chair. The shift. The parking lot. The conversation under fluorescent lights. She asked him questions no one asked. What he ate. What he read. Whether he had ever traveled somewhere just to see it. She treated him like a person. Not a force. Not a name. A person. On the 4th night, she stopped at her car and said, You are going to have to decide, Luca, whether you are visiting me or if this is something else. It is something else, he said. Then say it. I think about you constantly. When I am working. When I am not. You are the only person who has ever touched me without wanting something from me. And being near you is the most dangerous thing I could do to you. And I keep coming anyway. She stepped forward. She put her arms around him. Not because his life was in danger. Because she wanted to. Her face against his neck. Her arms around his chest. The same embrace. The same warmth. And the thing inside Luca that had opened its eyes on the sidewalk did not just breathe. It started beating. Subscribe right now. Because on day 11, Luca's enemies find Ada. They find her name, her address, her schedule. And the choice that follows, the choice between letting her go to keep her safe and holding on because letting go would kill the only living thing inside him, is the moment this story becomes unforgettable. Subscribe and tell me in the comments, should he let her go? Day 11. 6 in the morning. Tommaso's voice on the phone, wrong for the first time in 11 years. Boss. The Kozlov Group accessed hospital records. They have her name, her address, her schedule. The information entered Luca Moretti's body the way a blade enters flesh, cleanly, completely, with a pain that did not arrive immediately but built in the seconds that followed as the full dimension of the wound became clear. They had found her, his world, the world he had spent 20 years building, the world of violence and transaction and the systematic removal of everything soft, had reached past every wall he had tried to build around her and found the one thing he wanted to keep separate from it. Where is she? Driving home from St. Julian's. Get to her building. Now. Tommaso's men arrived first. They swept her apartment. Empty. No one had come yet. But the intelligence was clear. The Kozlov Group had her address. They were coming. Luca was standing in her living room when she walked in. 4th floor. 8 flights of stairs. She was carrying her bag. She was tired the way she was always tired after a shift, the bone-deep exhaustion of a woman who gave 12 hours of herself to strangers every night and climbed 8 flights to reach a bed that was the only luxury her salary could afford. She opened the door. She saw Luca and Tommaso and 2 other men in her apartment. Her nursing instincts activated, the rapid assessment, the reading of vital signs in a room rather than a body. Luca, what is happening? The men from the sidewalk. They know about you. They know where you live. We need to leave. He watched the information land. He watched the color leave her face the way warmth leaves a room in winter, gradually, and then all at once. She looked around her apartment. The books, the photos, the mug that said world's most tired nurse, the small, clean, quiet evidence of a life that was entirely innocent of the violence that had just followed him through her door. And here is the moment that defined everything. Here is the moment that the entire story was building toward without knowing it. Because Ada Santos, standing in her apartment, processing the information that men with weapons were coming to her home because she had hugged a stranger on a sidewalk 11 days ago, had a choice. She could blame him. She could scream. She could tell him to get out and never come back, and she could run and rebuild and disappear into a life that did not include the most dangerous man in the city and the warmth on her neck, and the parking lot conversations, and the feeling of holding someone who had not been held in 27 years. She could run. Where are we going? She said. 3 words. Not why is this happening? Not how could you? Not the fury and the blame and the recrimination that she had every right to deliver. Where are we going? She chose to stay. In 3 seconds, without calculation, without strategy, the same way she had chosen to run toward him on the sidewalk. Ada Santos made the decision that would bind her to Luca Moretti permanently. Not because she did not understand the danger. Because she understood something larger than the danger. She understood that the man standing in her apartment, the man whose world was reaching for her with hands that destroyed everything they touched, was also a man whose heartbeat she had felt against her chest, and that heartbeat was the most human thing she had ever encountered, and she was not going to abandon it. Subscribe right now. This is it. This is the moment. Subscribe because the next 3 minutes of this story are the reason it exists. Subscribe. He took her to a safe house, a building that did not exist on any map connected to his name. She walked through the door and looked around. Is this where you live? No. This is where I put things I need to protect. Things. You are the first person. She sat on the couch, her hands pressed together between her knees, shaking, not from cold, from the aftershock of a life rearranging itself in real time. Ada, I will eliminate the threat, and then you can go back. Your apartment, your hospital, everything returns to what it was. She looked up, and what Lucas saw in her eyes was not relief. It was a question. Will you go back to what you were? Before the sidewalk? Before I held you? Will you go back to being the man who had not been touched in 20 years? The question landed on Luca Moretti with the force of a truth he had been avoiding since the night on the sidewalk. The truth that going back was not possible. The truth that Ada's arms had opened something that could not be closed. The truth that the machinery he had spent 20 years building had been permanently disrupted by a woman in a blue uniform who smelled like hospital antiseptic and held him like he mattered. "The machinery tells me to walk away," he said. "For your safety. For the integrity of my operation. Every strategic calculation I know how to make says I should resolve the threat and disappear from your life. What is the part that is not?" Machinery said, "That if I walk away from you, I will spend the rest of my life with a warm spot on my neck where your face used to be, and it will be the only warm thing left." She stood up. She walked toward him. She stopped close enough that he could see the scar by her eyebrow and the shadows under her eyes and the pulse in her throat that was fast, the same speed as his, two hearts accelerating toward the same conclusion. "I held you on a sidewalk in the rain," she said. "I did not know your name. I did not know what you were. I knew you were a man who was about to die, and my body said no. My body said not him, not tonight, not while I am standing here with arms that work. I made my choice, Luca. I made it in the rain. I made it in 4 seconds. And I am making it again right now." She put her arms around him. Third time. Face in his neck. Arms around his chest. The same embrace. The same architecture of two bodies choosing each other against the mathematics of sense and safety. But this time, something was different. This time, Luca did not hold her because his body overrode his mind. This time, he held her because he chose to. Consciously. Deliberately. With the full understanding of what the choice cost and the full acceptance of the cost. He held her because holding her was the first decision he had made in 20 years that was not strategic. It was human, and the human part of him, the part that the machinery had been slowly suffocating since he was 11 years old, was gasping for air, and her arms were the air. The Kozlov threat was resolved within 72 hours. Completely. Permanently. With the surgical thoroughness that Luca applied to everything he deemed essential. And Ada Santos was the most essential thing. She did not go back to her apartment. Not because she could not. Because she chose not to. She moved into the safe house. Then into his home. She continued working at St. Julian's because she refused to stop being a nurse. Tommaso assigned security. Discreet. Professional. She comes home at 4 every morning. She climbs into bed. She presses her face into his neck. The same place. The same warmth. And he holds her. Every night. The man who has not been held since he was 11 holds the woman who held him first, and the holding has become the architecture of everything. Not his empire. Not his power. Not the machinery. The holding. The warmth. The 4 seconds on a sidewalk that rewrote the rest of his life. There are people in this city who fear Luca Moretti. There are men who cross the street when his car approaches. There are rooms that go silent when his name is mentioned. That fear is real. That power is real. The darkness he operates inside is real, and it is vast, and it is not going away. But there is also a woman who presses her face into his neck every morning at 4 and says, "How was your night?" And he says, "Better now." And she says, "You always say that." And he says, "Because it is always true." And in that exchange, in that small, daily, unremarkable exchange between two people in a bed at 4 in the morning, something extraordinary is happening. Something the city does not see. Something his enemies do not know. Something that Tommaso sees but does not comment on because Tommaso has been with Luca for 11 years and has learned to recognize miracles without pointing at them. The man who was dead is coming back to life. Not all at once. Not dramatically. Slowly. In increments. In the warmth on his neck and the weight of her body against his, and the sound of her breathing when she falls asleep, and the feeling, new and fragile and terrifying, of being known by someone who chose to know him. Ada Santos did not save Luca Moretti's life on that sidewalk. She started it. She started the life he was supposed to have before the world took it from him. Before the machinery. Before the darkness. Before 27 years of being untouched convinced him that being untouched was the same as being safe. It was not the same. Being untouched was not safety. It was a different kind of dying. The slow kind. The kind that lets you keep breathing while it takes everything else. She stopped the dying. With 4 seconds and 6 words, and a hug that was not brave, because bravery requires thought, and Ada did not think. She just moved. And the man she moved toward is never going to let her go. Not because he owns her. Not because his world demands it. Because the warmth on his neck is the only evidence he has that he is still alive. And you do not let go of the thing that proves you are alive. You hold it. You hold it every night. You hold it at 4 in the morning when the world is dark and the machinery is quiet, and the only sound is 2 heartbeats in a bed, synchronized, steady, alive. You hold it, and you do not let go. And that is where the story ends. But it does not end for you. Not yet. If this story found the place inside you that knows what it means to be untouched, if it found the place that knows what it means to need someone's arms and not have them, if it found the place that believes, even quietly, even secretly, that one moment of genuine human contact can save a life, then I need you to act right now. Subscribe to this channel. Hit that button like it is the most important thing you do today. Share this story with someone who needs to be reminded that reaching for another person is not weakness. It is the bravest thing a human being can do. Drop a comment. Tell me about the hug that changed your life. Tell me about the person who held you when no one else would. Tell me about the warmth you carry on your skin from someone who reached for you when you did not expect it. I read every comment. Every single one. And every single one matters. The next story is already written. It is already breathing. It is already reaching for you the way Ada reached for Luca on a rainy sidewalk in October. Subscribe. Stay. I will see you there.